Hey guys, you're on with Ali. This is Ali's 2 cents, my 15 days until the new year. We are on day number 6. Day number 6, let's talk about your mouth. The mouth and the mind are very powerful. The two M's, let's call it the two M's, the mouth and your mind. Very powerful. We have to be mindful of, number one, what goes in our mind, and then what comes out our mouth. And the reason I say that, we live in a time where pretty much anything goes. I mean, we got babies cussing, we got grown folks cussing, we got babies acting out, doing whatever, we got folks laughing, thinking that it's cute. We videotape everything, we show any and everything. We have disputes, and then we just become belligerent with each other. As adults, we teach some of these behaviors to kids, and I am such a big proponent, with what we have at our fingertips, being media, television, internet. What we have at our fingertips is very powerful, and we have to know how to use that, how to take that information and either do something positive with it or something negative. You guys are going to hear me say this all the time. And I know a lot of people don't like positive people all the time. Let me tell you, I'm not positive all the time, but I have things that bring me down just like anybody else. What I've learned is to not give those things energy. Everything has its place. I've learned to not ignore it, deal with it, be done with it, move on. And what I find is more times than not, if I can't explain, really explain the overall impact that something has on my life, and my livelihood, it probably doesn't deserve a lot of my energy. So with that being said, there's nothing wrong with positive thinking. And positively thinking means that sometimes we have to consider what goes in our brain, what goes in our eyes, what goes in our ears. All of those things impact us. So for example, people ask questions all the time. How in the world did this happen? How did this person believe these crazy things about people? We talk about race all the time. How in the world, with so much diversity, can people walk around and still believe the misconceptions about the black race, about Hispanics, about Irish people, about immigrants, about anything? How is it that we believe all these things? Because and let's use a big one, religion, because being a PK, I want to throw that one in. And I'm going to tell you, it's so easy. It's so easy. If you're only exposed to or exposing yourself to the same rhetoric, the same circle, the same information over and over and over again, why wouldn't it be true? I mean, it's silly for someone else to think that it can't be true in your mind. If I tell you every day that you have to, let's use religion. If I tell you every day that you have a certain regimen, you have to live a certain way, you have to pray a certain way, you have to worship a certain way, this is your religion, this is the name of it, this is how it fits, and this is how we worship. More than likely, you're going to believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. And anything outside of that is like weird. Not necessarily wrong, but weird. Like, why do you believe, you go and you meet someone who's Muslim, someone who is non-denominational, or maybe even atheist. And for you, that just blows your mind. How is that even possible? Well, just like for you, your religion is so clear, so very obvious and simple, because it's what you've been raised and taught and read and even inquired about since you were little, I'm assuming. It's no different than the person who has been taught the other way. Some people change as they get older, as I did. I changed my belief process and things like that as I got older. But a lot of people are even taught that, that there is no specific religion. And so just as one is taught that there is, and this is what it is, whatever our denomination that we go with, this is what it is, another person can be taught another denomination or none at all. And it's the same thing. And so we have to consider the things that go in our mind, are the things that we also propel out. So that's a simple example. And it doesn't mean that it's positive or negative, but we have to consider the idea that the reason I use that is because that's something that we don't even think about. We don't think about religious programming, and that's the word I'm going to use, because we are programmed in everything we do. If I teach you in school about American history, we believed everything we were taught for years, and some even still believe, because there's nothing, or they're not seeking the information that says anything different, right? But you go somewhere else and someone goes, but wait, that certain people really didn't discover the United States the way that it's been told, right? First of all, you can't discover a land where somebody else inhabits. I mean, that's called stealing. That's like me walking in your yard and being like, you know what, I just discovered this house. It's mine. So, and that's a silly example, but that's ultimately what happened. But we were taught this, we've been fed this, we were in school for 13 years in primary and secondary school before some of us went to college. And these are the things that we were been taught. And so you don't question, you don't even think about it until you get to the collegiate level, or you just start going to the library and you start embracing, or you're online and you start reading some of these things and you start to question it, right? So our mind is shaped by what we are fed every single day. Well, it's the same thing as some of the negativity, right? Those things shape our mind. So what goes in our mind, we have to be mindful about, because typically that's what's going to come out of your mouth. So whatever you're bringing in, if you're bringing in more positivity and things that you can build off of and grow from and continue to learn from, you're going to speak the same things. Whereas if you are ingesting whatever, we call it craziness. Let's say, because I watch a show called Ridiculousness. And because I need to have my fun. I like to have fun. I like silly stuff. I don't like a whole lot of silly stuff, because some stuff is just stupid silly to me and it's not funny. But I like ridiculousness because it's like real life stuff, like people doing really silly things or accidentally doing really silly things. And so I really like it. It's funny to me. But I could go and I can watch some things and allow those things to kind of dictate how I respond and how I behave. And maybe that's why I have a sense of humor, and I can laugh things off because I see that, so I speak some of that silliness into my everyday. And you guys may not be getting this, but let me give another example. Let's say our president today, United States President of America. It's the first time I've actually said our. Usually I say yours, but this is a wide video, so I don't want to offend anyone. Anyway, President number 45, Donald Trump, has said some things since before he was elected, even to this day. And a lot of people disagree with what he says, but a lot of people actually do agree with what he says. A lot of people agree with some of the negative rhetoric. A lot of people do agree, like when he was talking about the put up the wall, kick everybody out. And then we saw a lot of support behind that. And there were different reasons for the support. But overall, we saw a lot of people supporting just kind of kicking out, so to speak, people that looked different, people that were different, people who were of a different economic status, and you saw a lot of people kind of gravitating and jumping on that bandwagon. And a lot of folks were like, man, he's creating all these negative people. And it's not so much that he was creating negative people. What happened is what they had been taught, what had been in their mind for the longest, just came out. And so what's been fed in was starting to come out of their mouths. And so we didn't discover or create anything. He just opened up the door for those people to be comfortable saying things. And I just use that to say, there are things that we do. For example, I'm going to use one more example to kind of bring this home, because there's so many different ways that minds and mouths could be positive or negative for us, that I wanted to kind of touch on it from different aspects. I know people are like, but what does that got to do with anything in real life? So for example, a baby sees a parent singing and sees their parents kissing and loving and hugging and all of that. So they grow up loving, hugging, singing, all of that, learning their alphabet, whatever the parents teach them to do. Then we got other parents that walk around with guns, cussing, sagging. And this, I'm not speaking about any particular race, but we see this stuff, cursing at each other. And then we see that kid in the store cussing out a parent at 3-4 years old, using the words, putting the words together properly better than I do. Or acting out, or having temper tantrums, or repeating things that they've heard. And we have to consider where they're getting that information from, because into their minds and out through their mouth. So all of that information, however it was presented to them, was embedded. This was what they lived every day. They don't know any different. They're just doing what they see, what is presented, how they wake up in the morning, what their normal livelihood is, and that's normal for them. So when they act out, the other parents may be mad or embarrassed, but this is what you ingest into their lives on a day-to-day basis. So this is who they're going to be, and this is what they're going to push out. So we got to be mindful of media. So I'm going to bring it back home. I'm going to talk about media. I talk about some of this TV now and internet. We got ratchet stuff. I don't care what anybody says. We got ratchet stuff. Now I'm going to talk about reality TV, because I know everybody watches reality TV. This goes for movies as well, because a lot of things are just like all over. A lot of people talk about porn the same way. You bring that in, all you think about is porn. But when we talk about reality TV, it's not so much that the people are so bad. It's that our society feeds off of the negativity. So you've got producers and stuff creating these situations where people are being mentally hurt, sometimes even physically hurt, creating animosities and negative things in people's lives. And then it becomes, the reflection of that is entertainment for us. And so even though we're looking at TV and we're like, man, it's reality TV. I know it's reality TV. If I see that enough, without even thinking about it, I start to think that that's okay behavior. I start to think that living that lifestyle is okay. I don't really question it when I do see something crazy happen on TV, when I do see something in the news, or, I'm looking at how those people's lives turn out and things like that. And it doesn't even occur to me that they've been impacted by, things that are happening in the lives that they're living, maybe some of the shows that we're watching and things like that. Everything has an impact. I'll tell you an example, how we know what goes in your mind comes out of your mouth or in your behavior. Disney is very smart, and so are commercials. Disney has been putting music in movies since day one. And we are triggered. There is a natural brain stimuli to music. And so like, whenever you're watching a Disney film, don't you ever go, oh my God, if they sing one more song? But that's how you reel them in, and everybody starts repeating. You repeat, you hear, see, and say, right? Hear, see, say. We were taught that as kids. And you start to repeat this stuff because it comes in, you see it all the time, it becomes a jingle that you can dance to, and then you start saying it or whatever, right? It's repetition over and over again. Same thing happens with anything that we do. So we have to be mindful of what goes in is going to come out in some way. And a lot of times we think we can control, well, I can watch that, I can do whatever, but that's not how I am. But that is almost virtually impossible to completely shut it off, depending on how much you ingest and how much you indulge yourself in some of those pleasures. Not to say don't have any pleasures, don't have any fun, but we have to think about sometimes when things happen, or we respond a certain way, or we think a certain way, or man, people are like this all the time. Are they really? Is everyone like that? Or are we so used to seeing people respond and act this way because that's what we choose? When we turn on the TV, we don't go to the news, we don't go to C-SPAN, we don't go to family type shows or things like that. We go to the conspiracy, we go to the who about to get slapped today. And while we know that that's wrong, we might see it somewhere and be like, oh, well, I mean, people do that. And I think what's happening is, and this is a deeper message, is we're society is starting to dictate and control our behavior and our thought pattern and how we respond to certain activities, which is why we have a lot of these issues kind of popping up with harassment and things like that, where now we don't even know how to respond to it. We don't know whether or not, should we tell, should we not tell? Was it flirting? Was it harassment? Really? Whose fault was it? Well, did they start it? You know, and all of these things is because subliminal programming, little by little, mind, mouth. So think of the movie Pleasantville. Pleasantville starts off as a black and white film. As it gradually goes through the film, everything turns into color. And what happens is there's exposure to some things that were very simple. I taught you all along, green is green because green is green. And somehow you went somewhere and you saw, well, wait, there's also some blue, and sometimes green with a different hue to it could be almost yellow, and if I add a little darkness to it, it turns more blue. You know, all of these things to it, right? And so now we're exposed, and we've got choice in everything that we do. Mind and mouth. You have a choice of what you put in your mind, which then dictates what comes out of your mouth. Every single day with everything that you do. Just be mindful of that. Those things matter. I know this was a longer video today, and there's so much more that I could touch on this one, and I wanted to hit on different aspects of how this kind of impacts our day-to-day life. Because it impacts all of us. Everything that we witness, the way that I live, the neighborhoods I grew up in, this is normal for me. Whereas I will look at how someone else lives and I'm like, wow, I don't know if I could live like that. I don't know. If I was raised that way, if that's what I saw every day, then I would accept that, and I wouldn't know any different. So some of this is to help us start to be more open to each other, be more open to other people, and just be mindful what comes in is going to come out. So if you're seeing negativity and you may get to a point where you're like, man, I hate that I'm negative all the time. I hate that I snap off on people all the time. Sometimes look at the source, look at what you're surrounding yourself with, look at what is going into your mind bank. What's being stored, because it might not be you, it might be programming, social programming that is kind of adding to, you know, maybe you're already, quick to respond nature and things like that, or just your feelings of, you know, how other people are or treat you. You know, a lot of that comes from what we see. So I really suggest thinking about what goes in, especially when we're working with kids, we're talking with kids, and we got kids in our family. Think about what's going in with, to those kids' minds, because eventually that's what's going to come out. So this is Ollie's 2 Cents, day number 6. Again, it is the 2 M's, your mind and your mouth. What goes in is expected to come out. So be mindful of that, guys, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Out on YouTube, it's Ollie MBS. That's Ollie, M as in mind, B as in body, S as in soul. And check out my other videos, my travel blog videos, my DIY videos. I got some food videos. And then also check out my other 15 days until the new year. And I will see you guys next time. Ollie out.